but greatest war film ever made, and why?
I mean, I guess the appropriate answer is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, see,
But 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 I grew up with the Big Red One.
yeah,
That was one of my favorite movies growing up. I didn't
Lee Marvin and Mark
yeah.
Hamill.
I didn't
Yeah,
see
yeah,
I didn't see Saving Private Ryan until I was in my 20s.
man.
So my thought process on war movies for World War II war movies, that was it, man. Big
Because
Red One.
I was really big on Platoon. There was
Oh
something
yeah,
that was such
yeah.
a gut. It was
Oh,
such a gut punch. The whole that whole scene with William Defoe when he's trying to make it
the
to
whole
the yeah getting
yeah.
yeah. But I'd say the reality is probably the greatest war film that defined our deployment has to be Team America. That was
Yeah, I'd say Tropic Thunder right in there.
Tropic Thunder, Team America. That explained our whole.
Right.
That was the real world. That was the real world.
Oh man, Team America.
Who was the most famous person you met during a USO tour?
Let's see. I met Rob Schneider, Wayne Newton.
Yes,
You remember
yes,
that?
I do. I do. That was
Um,
fantastic.
let's see. Vince Vaughn.
You got to meet Vince
Yeah,
Vaughn.
yeah. Me and Elijah Parks. Like when everybody else left, and we were stuck at Air John doing Third Country National Detail. Vince Vaughn came. It was like unannounced. Like they were early for their USO tour, so they missed the entire surge, right? So um, we were at the B dock, and we got a notification like, "Hey, Vince Vaughn's gonna do a little thing tonight." Like, oh, cool. And Elijah Parks and I went down there to check it out, and we just brought our little chairs, and there was nobody there, man. Like nobody. And Vince Vaughn had this huge, like 80-inch screen TV set up. And he came out and he's like, I guess everyone missed the memo. I'm like, yeah, nice to meet you and everything. He's like, well, I'm premiering my new movie, Dodgeball.
No
So we saw it
way.
before anybody else, and Vince Vaughn sat right next to us. And it was just like three or four of us in this whole, like the quad at Arif John in Zone 5, where it was like still tent.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can
Yeah,
dodge a
yeah. When we
ball.
sat there and watched it, it was great, man. It was cool. Yeah.
Man,
I met Gretchen Wilson, the singer.
was she as hot up
Oh
close
yeah,
as yep, yep.
yeah. And she's got that country girl next door look, just white, you know. You can say wife beater shirt, you know.
The tank tops
Yeah,
that
and
yep.
yeah, she was just in the MWR, and she was. I don't know if she was with Vince Vaughn because it was right around that same time frame. There was nobody there. Yeah,
Wow.
I just sat there and talked to her for like 10 minutes.
That's
Cool
man.
girl, man.
I see. I only got to actually like talk with Joe Millionaire, maybe when they were doing
hmm
back in the days of the reality TV that type thing. And he was a great fellow. You know, he was he talking to everybody. I think just about everybody was there to see the Baltimore Ravens cheerleaders. But he still got his 5 minutes of fame there, and
Sweet.
everybody was glad to meet him.
Speaking of Diamond Dallas Page, he came there. The whole
I
met
see
him in the chow hall
see that my mission sucked. My
because you guys went over. You guys were over at K and B by then.
KMB or S
That's
Pod.
part one of the
Yeah, I was
two.
at S Pod for a big chunk
Yeah,
of it, and then ended at KMB.
yeah.
Man, man, what was the dumbest thing a soldier ever came to you with?
Ugh. Honestly, it'd go back to my active duty time. I had a friend who he and his wife were on the splits, and he came to me and says, I need your help. And I said, okay, about what? He says, I need to go get my wife. And I said, okay. Like, where is she? She's over in the barracks. In our barracks? No, no. She's over at, I can't remember what unit it was. 296 Support Battalion is over in the 3rd Brigade area. she and his son were living with a guy in the barracks at the time. And he's like, I just need to go over and make sure that the baby's being fed. I'm like, we got a timeout here, man. Like, there's so much more going on here than the baby being
How
fed.
did you get?
How did you get here?
Yeah, how did?
So yeah, that right there, that always lands in my mind. Like, how I just, I mean, there's so many other stupid things, as you know, like you hear, and it's just like, oh my god, that's crazy. I don't want to come to drill because it's boating season or something like that. But that took the cake, man. I'm just like, but are you for real? Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the dumbest thing. I'm just like, wow.
What was your darkest day on deployment?
Because there's a lot of, and I guess it would really determine like or depend on what you define as dark. If it was like this is never gonna end, kind of
That's
thing.
everybody talks about the Groundhog Day
You know what I
experience.
mean? Or is it like I don't trust these people? I don't trust my chain of command doing that things. It's just there's so many of them, Brian. I don't know. I mean, I had some problems on that first deployment, with one of my soldiers, and it was just there was like a lot of problems. But I think the darkest day for me, um, quite honestly, it was there was this big event at the front gate that happened that we were at. It was me and Lipchinsky, and I think Bailey was there. I don't know if you remember Bailey.
From he was headquarters.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
headquarters.
so there was like this almost like a riot at the front gate, right? That we managed to get it under control. And it was, I went and reported it to the B Doc, said, hey, here's what happened today. And they put the blame on me about that. I'm trying to remember the details. It's so long ago. And they put the blame on me. And I remember thinking, like, I did all that work and put myself at risk to keep this from getting out of control. And all they can do is throw it back at me. And these people weren't even there. And that to me, like, I don't know, that was one of the darker days. I can remember that. That was one of the darker days that I remember. I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, this is just crazy because it's like,
You think
I
they're
put
to
all
make
that effort. They didn't care, you
you're
know?
there to make a difference, and suddenly we're the problem.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's just off the top of my head. That's what I can think of, quite honestly. I don't know. Being completely separated from the unit, I was felt kind of lost because there were only like 8 of us that were left over there, you know? And, well, maybe there were like 14 of us that were left over there. And all the rest went to SPOD, went to North, went APOD when it existed. Everybody just scattered. Like, none of my men were there. We did all this train up and everything. Everybody left. And we were just kind of stuck there, just doing front gate guard duty. Like, no
Mm.
support, couldn't get a hold of the unit at all or anything like that. We were just kind of out there. And that was disheartening for sure.
It's that ongoing theme of you get trained, told time and time again, you know, train with your unit, train
Mm-hmm.
with your men, don't break your teams,
And
keep
poof.
keep that solidarity, and yet we watch time after time where soldiers were constantly switched, moved around, changed
Drop of a hat.
at the drop of a hat.
Just
Really,
gone.
really hard to build cohesion and keep a strong team
Drop
that
of a
way.
hat, man. Yeah, I remember that.
Hello. My next guest is retired Master Sergeant Ryan Meeks. And you're going to find out he had quite a interesting trip through the military. 27 years he served before retiring. Active duty with 2 to the 116th Armored Cav Division, with 2 to the 146 Field Artillery, 66 Aviation, MedCom, and I believe JFHQ. But he served it all, as started off with the old, what was it, 91 Bravo, which was the combat medics. Eventually got changed to 68 Whisky. You're going to see that a lot of things change in the military, and the the MOS that you pick may not always get to be the MOS that you get to do, especially when deployed or in service. So bear with us. We got a little off on our storytelling, and we gave the wrong name of a soldier that passed away. And First Sergeant Schreiner, if you're watching this and enjoying that retired life, I hope you forgive us, because you're still alive and kicking. I was pretty sure you were, but we got it wrong. Uh, Welcome to God and Country Tales of the Old Guard. And please like, subscribe, and follow this channel. And don't be afraid to share us with your friends and fellow soldiers. Thank you. God bless. Stay salty.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
My goodness. So I'm trying to think. The last time I saw you, probably 6 years ago.
Yeah,
It was
OCS Phase 3. I sent you the picture.
5 years.
Yeah.
So 5 years. Yeah. So during COVID.
During COVID. We all had
Man.
masks on. Yeah.
Man. So now, tell me, before we get into the weeds of things, COVID 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You're safety officer.
I was in safety. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
NCOIC, and what was going through your head during that time? Because I have never been part of an operation like that where we were quarantining soldiers that were there for training. Our first sergeant got COVID like day 2 or day 3 into the exercise. Big event, having soldiers come from all over the state during for our lifetime, the biggest pandemic operation. Still had to get soldiers trained.
Mm-hmm.
How did you handle and your team handle that?
It was interesting because I was working with Rich Kraft at the time in safety, but we also
He said Richard Kraft.
Richard Kraft.
Yeah,
sorry. I was working with Warrant Officer Kraft. But we also worked with Occupational Health and Industrial Hygiene at the time. Their office was right next to ours, so we would get like a little bit different intel than everyone else because those warnings would come down from Big Medcom. And so Colonel Pletcher was like kind of feeding us data. So 2019, that time frame when it was like kind of really just barely starting, we were hearing rumblings that was going to kind of happen. But the way it hit the Army was, the military in general, nobody was prepared for that. Nobody was prepared for that. And at first, it wasn't terrible. We were wearing masks and everything like that. But it was, this is the thing that most people are completely unaware of. The National Guard had no plan, especially for masks. So they reached out to Colonel Pletcher and was like, hey, you guys need to come up with a mask solution. So there were a bunch of us that were going to these different agencies like Tactical Tailor, looking for solutions for masks. Like, what kind of masks do you guys have that are available? And Tactical Tailor was making like these cloth masks with just like these little hooks, to put over your face. And like, I was doing research online, and Master Sergeant Pernhagen, she was doing the same thing.
Wow.
She was doing the same thing. And our mission in safety had pretty much shut down because it's like medical took over, and that whole blanket thing. But nobody even had masks, nothing. And yeah, that was one of the things that we were doing at the time.
I agree.
Yeah, and then that's when Colonel Siglock was like, okay, we're shutting everything down. Everybody go home. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. I remember I was part of the 50% that got to stay on, and everybody else was working remotely. Problem was, I had gotten very sick, had the dry cough, had all of that stuff going on at the very beginning of it, and fellow workers were mad that I was even there,
Mm-hmm.
but I was one of the first people to actually get tested back when you had to do the drive-through
I remember that.
and getting
Yes.
the double the
The
long
nose
swab
swab.
and the short swab
Yeah.
put up your nose and
Over Madigan. Yeah, yeah.
no, I had to drive clear down to Toledo, Washington because it was one of
Oh,
the few places that was
wow.
doing it and
That's awesome.
waiting 4 days to get that result back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the scariest 4 days because
Nobody knew anything about it.
nobody knew anything about it. I was scared because I had been in contact with my elderly mother at the time who was on oxygen and I was just like, what did I do? You know,
Right.
and when it came back that it was negative, at the same time they believed that I probably had it, but because it took so long to get the test, it was too late to know for sure.
Right.
So the problem was I still had that cough for almost 2 to 3 months because I'd always get bronchitis every few years.
Right. I had the same exact thing.
And
Yeah.
man, nobody wanted to be near
For a
you.
month,
It
just
was
had that
not
little
it was not
crackle
because of
cough. Yeah.
deodorant. I was wearing my deodorant. But everybody was staying as far
Nobody
away as they
else
could.
was. That's the problem.
But it was a challenge with meals, with the training plans, with you're outside in 80, 90-degree weather trying to do everything with that mask on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
And
the thing about it is if you know anything about safety, our job's 90% in person. Like, there's not a lot you can just sit and do online outside of writing up some policies, right? So that was extremely frustrating because we couldn't go do our job. We couldn't go do inspections of the facilities, arms rooms inspections. We couldn't do any of those things. We weren't allowed. Nobody was allowed to go in and out, back and forth. So that was a big thing for us. And then that's when OCS hit, and that was really something. Have all those people out there
because they're not just coming from Washington State, they're coming from
everywhere,
all over the
and
US to our location.
right. And so I was the primary advisor for OCS for the 205th, and also their sharp advisor. But another story. But they had a quarantine. They had all these rooms upstairs that they would put people in there from OCS that came down positive for COVID, and they would stay in there the entire time. Wouldn't pass their OCS or anything. They were just
Oh
stuck up in the
man.
barracks watching everyone else.
And
It was wild.
I felt bad for all of you because I retired 2 days. I didn't have that nice 90-day break before I retired.
Mm-hmm.
I worked up to my last day,
Me too.
and it was again during COVID, and I felt bad because my last day they had as much of a shindig as they could have for me.
Yeah.
We're all in our masks. We're all staying so many feet apart as they're giving me my gifts. Uh, you all still had 2 more days of dealing with the class and everything
Mm-hmm.
that was going on. So I got to wave goodbye, knowing that I wasn't going to be there to help with the clean out
Right.
and the exit.
Did
Because
you have a retirement ceremony?
no, I did not. Well, I had two very nice. I had the retirement that I wanted, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, I tried that.
My good. They kept trying to get me to come back, when things calmed down, but I was like, no, because in both cases, I got to have an event over at the flight line with all the soldiers I had worked with
Right.
on
Which I think
aviation.
is the most important thing, is you say goodbye to the people you want to.
That's
They brought me in 6 months later
oh no.
after my retirement date. Okay, so I retired at 1/1/21 at 000 hours. I set it up that way. So January 1st was going to be my new life, right? They brought me in June of 21. Keller did, for Sergeant Keller, and said, "Hey, look, the Sergeant Major wants you to do a retirement, and so does the commander, and yada yada yada." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Just think of it as we're going to give you, your wife and kids something." Okay, fair enough. That's cool. But they're like, "You got to be in uniform." I wasn't even in the military, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Up there in front, yeah. It kept Mary Billy 33.
Yeah, by then
It was wild, man.
by then I had already started growing this,
I
and
had to shave my beard.
there was no way.
Yeah,
There was
I had to
no
shave my beard,
way.
man. Had a little more padding. Yeah.
And I will say the folks at 205th also gave me a great send off. It was they were that was a hard working bunch that put together all the logistics for
I never
the
had any
LCS
problem with
class.
people at 205th, man. They were always cool.
It was a great. Hoping to get some of them on here.
Yeah,
Get to,
definitely.
so now you come in to active duty
Mhm.
back when it's 91 Bravo,
93.
93
Yeah.
Bravo,
No, 91 Bravo. Yeah, it's
91 Bravo.
1993. Yep.
Okay,
91 Bravo.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Combat medic.
It was all combat medic. There was no clinical anything back then. And it was still Vietnam era, Gulf War era stuff. So a lot of our first aid dressings were from the 60s, 70s. Just cotton, just straight up cotton.
It's well, we were both 2146
Mm-hmm.
field artillery, so I remember some of our equipment. We having the oldest the 88 mic or
Oh, yeah.
the that was from Korean War was the oldest operating piece of equipment in the army.
Well, if you look at a
And
deuce and a half, most deuce and a halves were made in the 50s, right? M256A5 or whatever it was. It
all had the split rim wheels.
you had to break with it.
Yeah, it was.
Had to break the bead on it and all that. Yeah, man. Those
It
were made in the
was
50s. We had those active duty in the 90s. So there's a weird transition phase there. But to give you a feel of how everything has changed so much, when I went through AIT back then, when they were teaching you tourniquets, it was still the old cravat that you would just kind of make into the neckerchief, wrap around, and then popsicle sticks or a stick or whatever you could find to make a windlass so that you could turn it. And that was official. That was official from AMED, Fort Sam Houston, was get a stick. They didn't have anything like a cat tourniquet or anything like that. Nothing even remotely close for another 10 years.
That was the same as our Cub Scout, Boy Scouts
Yep.
training. That was right on.
It was the same for Braveheart. The same timeline. So nothing had changed, right?
I know. Well, and the last of the buffalo had been shot off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they were just getting by with what they
just
could.
doing what you had to do. That's right. But yeah, and that was 91 Bravo, and yeah.
When did it change over?
So it changed to 91 Whiskey. I want to say 2003. So when we were spooling up to go overseas, so the 91 series was all medical. It's like 91 Alpha was your medical supply, 91 Bravo was your medic, 91 Charlie was your LPN, stuff like that, right? So it was all laid out, and they started switching those around, and they took it from Bravo to Whiskey, and so we were 91 Whiskey. So that's where they were combining both combat medicine and EMT. That's when they started combining the two. And so when we deployed, and this is guard by then, but when we deployed, we had to learn all those skills plus learn the National Registry EMT, which is no easy task in like a 2-month period with that many people and trying to get them all passed, because the National Registry EMT it's not the easiest thing in the world. And a lot of the answers are counterintuitive to combat medicine because you're talking about civilian medicine. So combining all that and getting it all up to speed, it was difficult. That was a task.
I work now on the civilian side
Yeah.
with the mental health agency, and one of our folks is a young man, also former combat medic, and he was sharing that with me that they do the EMT training now, and I was like, I was gonna have to ask you. I was like when did that take effect? Because I know so many of our MOSs, we didn't get certain credentialing with it for the civilian.
No, you were just out there. You were just out there on your own. And so the bad part is that you were National Registry EMT certified. Okay, great, awesome. You get your EMT card, but you can't really do anything in Washington State without the reciprocity. So you've got to have the Washington State version of things. And you better not try most of the combat medic stuff on regular people, man. Because, yeah, you're sticking IVs and needle decompressions, and so that's bad juju. You'll go to jail. Like, that's not good. Yeah. But, you do what you can. You do what you can. So, and then it wasn't till, I'm going to say 2007 or 2010, I'm not really sure, when they switched it to 68 whiskey.
Okay.
That's when it switched to 68 whiskey. So I could be wrong on the timeline. I don't remember. There were so many changes so fast. But it was 91 whiskey, and then they switched all medical to 68.
So now you're in the Guard.
Mm-hmm.
You're with 2146 Field
Mm-hmm.
Artillery. Are you with HHB?
Yes. So all medics are with headquarters, always. And then they get sent out to the individual companies.
So now, what are you doing on the civilian side, or are you AGR tech at this point?
Not yet. Honestly, I was kind of in a weird transition in my life, man. You know, like I joined the Army so early, and I never really had any outside work experience other than like working at a movie theater and Albertsons and stuff. And so when I got out of active service, I bounced around, man. I went through a lot of jobs, got fired from a bunch of them because like you got this attitude that you bring with you, you know, from active duty. And you've just got zero tolerance for civilians and the crap that they think is important, right? Because you're like, and you become that guy where it's like, well, you think that's hard. Well, you don't know what hard it, you know, nobody's going to put up with that either, right? So it's like, okay, you're out of here, you know. So I bounced around.
I had that conversation with my mental health agency that I was working for, dealing with a client, and he had done something incredibly stupid, and I asked him, I told him, I said, you need to quit being a dumbass,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you need to leave this individual alone. You need to go on your corner. And my supervisor, who was with me at the time, he goes, hey, Brian, just want to let you know, great work, you know, de-escalating the situation.
But
In the future, could you not call the
that's like the
clients a
mildest
dumbass?
thing. That's like the mildest thing in the world.
And that's why I realized I wasn't in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
I need to, yeah. I was on the civilian side of the world now, and I had to rein in a few things. In all fairness, though.
And it's the exact same thing, man. I was bouncing around. I was phlebotomist, you know, drawing blood.
Were you
doing that?
Were you thinking about a medical career during all of this, or were you?
Honestly, no.
Wow.
No, man. Back then, they didn't try real hard to prepare you for the real world. It was just like, well, we can give you a small sign-on bonus, or you know, you can just get the hell out of here. You know, it's up to you. We were in between wars; like they weren't trying real hard to keep people.
You were peacetime guard,
yep.
and you shared that same experience. You're with the last of the Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, and so
the Gulf War
absolutely,
veterans.
Absolutely.
So.
And so, you know, the active duty was just like, well, you know, you can stay or go, we don't care. And it's like, all right, and you get with the Guard, and the Guard, you know, you've still got everybody in there, like you were saying. It was like, man, I tell you what, the Mekong Valley, you know, it's just like, wait, what? You guys are still around? So that's a huge transition. But that whole transition, you know, into the Guard, and then just kind of floating out there, you know, like you feel like you got a lot of job skills, but you know, you're 22. You've only got military job skills. You go out there and you're trying to get these different jobs, and people are just abhorrent. Like they're just like, oh my god, like you can't even deal with them, right? It's a recipe for disaster. It really, really is. So I think I was working for Puget Sound Blood Center when all of it started coming down. Like, no, it was before that.
I was gonna say
I was working for Guard Force over on Camp Murray. I was doing the Guard Force. So I was like guard duty. Back then they had National Guard working there, and we were doing patrols of Camp Murray. Most people don't even remember it.
Yeah, I knew after 9/11.
That's when it was.
Happened.
Okay. Yeah. And so I was working that, and then I got a job working as a recruiter for the National Guard for Lakewood at the Lakewood Town Center.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
I think I worked there for a month, and then the Roaring Bull message came down.
Now, where were you at?
I was at 2146
on 9/11.
Oh, 9/11. Yeah. I was I was with 2146 when 9/11 happened, and everything changed then.
What was your day? What were you doing?
I got a call from James Smith. Smitty, I don't know if you remember him. He was a Ford observer. He was a fister. And he called me. He's like, dude, someone blew up a bomb in the world or in the Empire State Building. That's what he said. I'm like, what? Get out. It's like 6 a.m. And so I get up and turn on the TV. Still had my 27-inch TV that I got from active duty. Right? I turned that thing on, and my girlfriend and I, who's my wife now, I sat and watched that happen. And, we watched the second tower fall. And it was like, because the first tower had already fallen, and we watched the second one fall. Then I went to work. And then we all got together outside in a little pond and sang God Bless America. It was the strangest thing, because it was like all doctors and everything. And they had a chaplain that came out, because I was working for the hospital, the Black Lake Medical Center. They all brought us out to the pond, and we had a moment of silence and then sang God Bless America. It was very surreal.
That would be.
It was very. It's one of those things where everyone's got their head bowed, and you're kind of like, got your eye looking like, is this really happening? Because like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, like, oh, here we go, man.
I was fresh out of basic and AIT when it happened.
Yeah.
I don't think I had been with the unit. I don't know if I'd even been 6 months home when that had happened. So maybe 4 months. So I was already in that active duty mindset.
What's going to happen.
Trying to figure out what's but you get the roaring bull alert. Where are you when that happens?
Well, because I was working for Guard Force at the time. Well, no, that's when I was doing a recruiting thing. But I still had all my contacts and everything, and they're like, hey, listen, here's what's coming down the pipeline. Kearney, that's who it was. Mickey Kearney. Yeah. And he was like, hey, look, I'm just letting you know, this is what's going on. So over the next day or two, you're probably going to get this. And then like 9 hours later, it came rolling in. So kind of had an idea it was coming. Little warning. But it's weird to get that phone call.
It was very surreal.
Yeah.
It was what was going through your mind with that? Because it's one thing to sit and wonder, but once you get that call, hey, this is the real deal. We're getting ready.
So I was extremely conflicted because I just gotten that recruiting job, and so gotten into AGR, and I'm like, man, but all my guys that I trained with and everything like that, and by then I was an E5, and medic platoons are usually at E6 and down. So Dave Stewart was there, and it was me, and then all the guys, and it was like, man. But okay, I didn't have any kids then. Just bought a house, so we were just living in our first house. We'd just been married. My wife and I just got married, and in July, and so we'd only been married for 4 months, 3 months, and so it was like, well, if we're going, we're going. At least in field artillery, that's how I explain it to my wife. It's like, at least in field artillery, we're back a little bit. We're not directly on the front line. We're back a terrain feature or so, 10 miles or so. And then we found out where we were going and what we were doing, which came a couple months later, So
get to Fort Lewis. Did you feel like you were prepared? Did you feel like you were trained for what you were going to be doing well enough?
No, not at all. Because again, it was so new. Like trying to train for FOB operations when there's no real training for FOB operations, kind of, you kind of go with what you got. I mean, I understand that. But the thing of it is like we were training for it was just like read out of a book, where someone's like, okay, and then the next thing we're training on is this. And the next thing we're training on is this. It wasn't specific with what we were doing. That's always been the problem with deployment centers. It's like, okay, well, you're going to be out in a minefield with a mine. Here's how you, probing for mines.
I drove by the, and I can't remember the name of the range, but I actually drove past that a few weeks ago for the first time since we deployed, and I remember that laying on the ground with the sticks trying to search for
Right.
IEDs. Chances are you hit it with that stick,
You're going with
you're
it.
going with it. And I just remember that training and thinking like, oh, how far we've come.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that the next war, the things that I have been watching and studying is it's a move back to the traditional like World War II type entire
Trench lines,
divisions and brigades
but with
going in
drones.
one shot. Yeah, drones, the drone piece of it. Um, the GWAT era that we were
It's always
in
evolving.
is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
That model is going away, is dying. Um, but man, it was a lot of work to get over into theater
And do nothing.
and
Do none of that.
not do the job you were trained
Nope.
for. So we had that kind of a double indemnity of, hey, here's the MOS you're training for.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no, this is the mission you're training for. And then when you get there, it's no, this is we got
This is
something.
what you're doing.
This is what you're doing.
You, and you over here.
Yep, yep.
I need 3 volunteers. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the how how did that work on your psyche, knowing that you did all this training for saving lives, really, and then end up. I understand that we're and I'll never dispute we are at the needs of the Army.
Yes.
So if the Army needs 100 medics to suddenly become gate guards,
That's
guess
what
what?
you're gonna do.
That's what you're going to do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What does it do to your psyche? Well, I mean, of course, it's a disappointment. And I volunteered so many times to go with the Fist Platoon because I was like, those were my boys. I loved them, you know. And I was like, they're going up north, but there was no way they were going to let me go. And I personally talked to Colonel Lee.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yep.
Colonel Lee. And I was like, send us to Iraq, man. You know, we talked a bunch of different times. And it was just like, that's never going to happen, you know. So I always took my aid bag with me pretty much wherever I went, just for the simple fact of like people still get hurt doing things. And when I was working at the front gate, you got all kinds of people coming in and stuff. And I did see some injuries up there. You know, there's people that do stupid things, get run over in the parking lot, you know, stuff like that, you know. So, but it was disheartening to go through all this medical training and not use any of it. It's very frustrating.
And not even be attached to one of the TMCs
to anybody
or
anybody. You know, Captain Grimmett. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
Yeah, great guy. He was like the only one that was doing medical. He was attached because, I mean, he's a PA. So he was attached, and I saw him at S-Pod working in the clinic there. But outside of that, Brian, our medical connex that was full of all that medical gear sat there and roasted.
Man.
Like every medication we had in there, the brand new medications, all of our equipment, everything that was calibrated, it sat there and fried, man. It's probably 150 degrees inside that connex.
He was
at least
Captain Grimmett, and I still to this day feel bad because he was the one who gave me the whatever that sheet is with all the things that we were exposed to.
Oh yeah,
and I lost it.
The Form 600.
I think you're right.
I've got
600. You've got one.
We'll talk.
Nice.
We'll talk.
Soldiers, I'm telling you, if a doctor gives you something, do not
hold on to that sucker.
Don't. In my own famous words, don't be a dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on to that paperwork.
Yeah. They were saying. I remember that. I saw that about a year ago. Looking through my medical records, saw that.
Now we're there. What we don't have. I think our biggest enemy was ourselves in that
100%.
situation, especially for those of us that were at the S-Pod.
Mm-hmm.
Was QRF at Air of John and then went to do security at the S-Pod. Did you end up also coming to the S-Pod?
I came to S-Pod.
You did QRF also?
No,
you weren't.
No,
okay.
at S-Pod.
Yeah.
No, I was mayor's cell.
Oh wow.
So I worked with Beal and oh geez, Major blonde guy. Can't for the life of me remember him. They kicked him out.
Oh wow.
Trying to remember what his name was. And then Schreiner.
Oh,
Schreiner was there.
for certain. Sure.
Yeah, a couple other people were there, but yeah, I mean, just doing
When I got
petty work, man.
S-Pods, when I got medevaced out because the original injuries from when I had got ran over
Mm-hmm.
got complicated from those nice 40-pound vests with tactical gear on them.
And I remember that.
It refractured at least one of the vertebrae, and then I no longer had feeling in my hands and feet.
It's terrible. Yeah.
For the rest of it, but I managed to get sent back, and then sent to KMB.
Yep.
Now you took my spot at KMB, if I remember right, because
Yes.
I had a lot of the soldiers who were.
It's an interesting story how that happened, Brian.
They were looking at Article 15s
Mm-hmm.
and possibly going to jail. Not the new ones that came from basic training, but the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had a pretty interesting group there that was working for the S4.
Yes. So under Simon.
Under Simon.
Yep. So and First Sergeant Beal, if you're listening to this, hey, I pissed him off really bad one day. Okay. So he was sick and he was in his bunk and he wanted me to go do something. It was my day off. He wanted me to go do something. And I come out of the mayor's cell and went to my tent. He was in my tent as well. So it was like me and John Stewart, was that his name from Supply? Ah, nicest guy ever. He was a cook. I'm sorry. He was a cook. Stewart.
The Stewart or McClay?
No,
no.
it was Stewart.
Master Sergeant Stewart. Yeah. Okay, but eventually was.
Yes.
Master
Yeah.
Sergeant Stewart,
So
yes.
he was in a bunk like over next to me. There were several of us in there, and Schreiner was in there. But I come in, I didn't know First Sergeant Beal was in there, and I'm like, God, just like Yosemite Sam, man, that's a son of a blah, right? And just yelling and screaming. He wants me to go, and this is bullshit. And he's in there, and he's like, Meeks, back your shit. You're going to KNB, just like that, man. So maybe they already asked for someone.
Okay.
But that was the cream topping on top, where he's like, you know what, you out of here. So I'm like, oh, that's great. So that's how I came over to KMB, right? When I came over to KMB, I was just kind of out in the wind, man. Like I wasn't with anyone, and so that's when I was working under Simon. So because none of us had a job anymore. Like it was near the end of the deployment, there was no job. Nobody had a job.
It was interesting because we were getting everything reset to come back home, and somehow we had got issued like new vehicles while we were there. So we've still got the manuals, our deuce and a half and 5 tons,
and then we had the LMTVs,
and then all of a sudden we started getting the LMTVs that were automatic and were really nice. Actually,
nobody knew how to drive them.
They were on a
push button.
Well, the push button one, yeah. Some of those kids shouldn't have been driving anything, but soldiers,
kids.
But yeah, it was interesting. But they had air conditioning, and I just remember I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so nice when we're back in Yakima, to actually have something with air conditioning
instead of just hot air blowing at you. A lot of that a lot of that blanks out to me those last couple months. But I do remember going through all the connexes, working through all the connexes every day. And I remember there was a guy that worked for you, Brian. His name was David. For the life of me, I want to say Lambert. Lambert.
I was just getting ready to make the cheap notes.
Right. So, and then Overstreet.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you see, he was my soldier there. In fact, I got when we came home, I was one of the. He went AWOL as soon as we came home,
which made perfect sense.
and I was one of the few soldiers that he was staying in contact with, he was at least giving me calls saying, "Hey, Sergeant Hill, just letting you know I'm doing this, or or hey, I've been sober for so many days, and hey, I'm gonna marry my girlfriend and raise the baby with her."
And then you got his
And
death notification.
I got his last message on my, back when the phones used to have the little tape recorder thing on there. I had got his last message on, I believe it was a Friday, and First Sergeant Beale got a hold of me the next week to let me know, hey, just letting you know your soldier was murdered.
Yeah, man, that was
Um,
crazy.
it was,
That's crazy to hear about that.
and that was one of the worst funerals I had ever went to.
I've heard that. I think
And
you told me
it
this.
was, yeah, I had never been, to a funeral where everybody just didn't sit quiet and let the ceremony go. Um, we were in St. Helens, Oregon. There was a very large meth population
Still
that
is.
attended his funeral, and people were getting up all through the service, talking to each other,
Just fidgeting.
walking out,
Yeah.
fidgeting, coming through, and I could, that chemical smell off of it. Like I could taste it. Like some of the
It's terrible,
folks would
man.
come this close to me as you are right now, and you could just taste the meth on your tongue, the roof of your mouth. It was just bizarre. And then the flag was accidentally given to the wrong parent, and
What?
there was almost a fight up at the front of the ceremony, and it just was, it was tough. It was tough to watch. It was you know, I will say it. He was a knucklehead,
Oh yeah.
but
I want to speak ill of the dead.
you don't want to speak ill of the dead. But in his own way, he was a good kid. He tried. He wanted to be.
I'll give him that.
He wanted to be above what his situation was, and he wanted to be a good soldier. I think, like a lot of us, he wanted to be Johnny Rambo when he got
Sure.
there, and the mission didn't allow for that, and so he
Yeah.
never really got to prove himself, except for in a few situations at work where he did get to work hard and show that, hey, I was
I
capable.
think it was a good thing for him to be there. I think it was a good thing for him to be there.
I think it kept him clean for that year.
I agree.
Because when you're stuck on one of those fobs, it's real hard to get meth.
Yeah.
And it's real hard to get into other
Yes,
other
it is.
situations. But and that brings me to a couple of other of our fellow soldiers from that group. Like Johnny Barron.
Johnny, he was my guy.
I was gonna say he was your group, and he was probably one of my favorite soldiers on. If you ever had the same shifts or were in situations where you had to be at the same checkpoint for a long time.
John, okay, yeah. So I wouldn't say he was an awesome soldier. He was a great person. Johnny was a great person. Terrible soldier. Terrible soldier. But he was a good guy. And it's funny because I always joke. John was the guy that would sweat just being alive.
Yeah.
He was just always sweaty. Right.
Oh, when we had the chemical, when we had to pull our mask, I felt bad for him. So bad for him.
Yeah.
That was.
But he was entertaining. Barron was cool. He was entertaining. I would get calls about him. So would Dave Stewart about him. Like, oh, it's Jaguar of Olympia calling. He hasn't made his payment. So I'm like, he's got a Jaguar?
Wow.
Like kind of thing.
Did not
yeah. So, I mean, he wasn't great with that. But you could always count on John. That's the one thing I'll give him. Like, if he said he was going to do something, he would do it. And I can't take that away from him.
That's the thing, is I always felt like he had my back.
Could always count on him.
Whether it was whatever the situation was, I knew that he was gonna, even if he didn't disagree, he would be honest about.
Yeah,
the
no,
situation.
I never had issues with that, and
I had to watch with my previous soldier. So my soldier was Overstreet.
Mm-hmm.
Very racist. I mean, I don't know if you remember, he had the DSS tattoo.
Yeah, he was right there.
Had made very, very horrible statements to Johnny, and
That I wasn't unaware.
and
I'm really surprised that
he
John didn't pummel him.
oh he had every right
Yeah,
to
because he could have done it.
break this kid up. That's
Mhm.
the thing, is he could have done it, and he didn't. That's I had so much respect for him in that, because I'm just like, I couldn't believe at this point in time that we were having to deal with that, and but John was, miss him, miss him. I know
So the
a lot of
last
the
time I saw
soldiers
him,
do.
I'm gonna say, the last time I saw him was at OCS Phase 3, not the one we were at, but the year before it. I want to say that's the last time I saw him. It was either there or Yakima.
The last time I saw him was at Providence Hospital. I went to see him, and he had been there for, I don't know, at least a week.
What did he die from?
That I'm not sure.
Like heart disease
I
or
believe
something?
it was something with his heart.
He was
And
so heavy in the end, man. He was so heavy.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it doesn't surprise. I mean, a lot of us when we get out, like
Yeah.
I said no to nothing when I got out. Like I put on almost 100 pounds after I got out.
No, that'll do it.
It's yeah. It was. But I got to leave. I got to leave a message on his whiteboard so that he knew I was there.
Yeah, he was really heavy in the end, and I mean, John was always heavy. John was always a big guy.
Yeah.
Like he was always a big guy, and there were times where, we really worked up, and he lost a lot of weight. He was looking really, really good, and then you would see him again, and he gained a bunch of weight. So he yo-yoed, as we all do, you know. But after I think he got divorced,
I think you're right.
and I think after that, it kind of went downhill for him, because that's when he started really getting big. That's when he started gaining a lot of weight. So, but I mean, I haven't see John Barron for, I want to say it was Yakima or at OCS. I know it was in the field environment because he was working. He had his top off, so he was sweaty. So, but that was always the thing. Yeah.
Now we get home. Because you came back after everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You were how far behind were you?
I want to say, let's see, I was a month behind. Yeah, I was a month behind.
You didn't have that desire to sign on for another year with another unit?
No, I didn't. Because because I did come back, but I didn't demob with you guys.
Yeah, I didn't demob either because I was medevaced out partway through, came back and got sent back early to start dealing with all that, because they thought they were gonna process me out for basically being ran over by a Suburban. Go Ford, Chevy sucks. But anyway, it's but I didn't get to go through that process with everybody either.
Right.
So, but you were at the back. I mean, that had to suck knowing everybody was home.
Yeah, and so helped get everybody. I mean, it was just basically demobbing all the other stuff, getting it ready to go home, and then so everybody left in that main group. Right, we stayed back and got the rest of the equipment coming home, and then we came home. But I went straight into, God, what was it? I went straight into that's when 68 Whiskey. That's when 68 Whiskey happened, because now we had to do tables. It was called Table 8, right? Tables 1 through 8. And all the medics had to do a retrain when we got back.
Wow.
So we sat in there, and it was for a month, 6 weeks.
Is this at Fort Lewis, or is this?
Yeah, that was at Fort Lewis, over where the MPR, Medical Proficiency Training Center, MPTC. It was this area where like they would train up all the medics, and you'd go and you'd get like extra medical training and all this other stuff, right? It was like a super spectacular training center. It's just this little hut, basically. Anyway, we went there, and all of the demobbed medics then had to go through that 3 weeks. They had to do 3 weeks, and we had a train up to do that. We did some really cool training. And we did a train up for that and then trained them. And then that's when I found out I had cancer.
Good grief.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I found a little lump right there. It was so advantageous that I was teaching that class at the time, because I was teaching how to palpate for the thyroid, right? So that you could do a crike, so you put a tube in someone's throat and like mash, So, and I'm feeling there, and I feel this little lump on the side. That's weird. And me being the OCD guy, I'm like, I'm constantly playing with it, which I think made it bigger. Right? But I'm like, And I went and had it. I went to sick call. It's just a little off story. I went to sick call, and I said, look, I've got this little lump here. I want to get it checked out. And the guy's like, hey, today's your lucky day. I'm like, great. He's like, we've got a class right now by the chief of ear, nose, and throat. He's teaching a class right now to a bunch of cytologists, which are cell doctors, right? So what we're going to do is what's called a fine needle aspiration. I'm going to stick a really tiny needle in there, pull out some of that material, put it on a slide, and look at it. Is that something you're willing to do? I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, if it moves me along, because otherwise I've got to make appointments with these people, and it's going to be 6 months, right? So they draw up my stuff. I'm in front of 15 doctors, and they draw up my stuff for that fine needle aspiration and put it on a slide and then put it up on the screen. And then there's an audible gasp, right? There's all the little cancer cells. And that's how I got my diagnosis. Yeah, it was like all the stars aligned, man.
The Army is so hit and miss. You either get the wrong leg amputated, or they discover cancer in a class by a total fluke. I mean,
fluke.
Just wow.
And that was a Thursday, and the doctor's like, "Here, come with me. We need to get you scheduled for surgery." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "I got an appointment Monday. You want to come in Monday morning?"
Yeah,
I do.
I'll be right there.
So I went in. They said they were only going to take just the lobe out. And when I woke up, they said that they'd taken everything out. So they took my whole thyroid out and 2 parathyroids. They said it was just rot with cancer, and it was aggressive, which in my mind, I'm like, they're looking at it and it's like, trying to grow. Like that's what I think of, It's not obviously like that, but
because you're not the only one I heard from our group that either got sent home with cancer or came home and had cancer.
A lot. Epidemiologically, that area is a big unknown. And then you take all the military, put it out there, all these different machines running, burn pits, trash, insects, stuff left over from the first Gulf War that's just sitting in the sand blowing in your face. I mean, what do you think's going to happen?
Well, I've shared this fact before. I don't know if it's still in there, but at the time, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most polluted place on Earth.
Just horrible,
and it just the amount of chemicals that go through there. I mean, I would be curious to see how the people in Kuwait are, medically
sitting in the S-Pod. We sat in a chemical field.
That's
petroleum coke plant, petro plant, and then whatever sulfur. And they'd have these big releases, and we'd have to put our pro masks on. That was our fob. It was right in the middle of it. I couldn't believe it. That was gross. We had a guy at Canby who, he was a civilian, and they had a football game. It's like New Year's. Yeah, it was New Year's. New Year's Eve, they had a big football game. And it was out there and like on the dirt. He jumped for a pass and scraped his knee. And they had to medevac him like 2 days later because he had the worst case of MRSA they'd ever seen. Like full-blown folliculitis, or cellulitis. Like his leg was like you took a horse's leg
Do you remember? Were you there for Catfish Carter, the soldier who I believe he was Charlie Battery, just catching a fish off the dock there down by the Coast Guard ship,
Yeah, he used to do the
and
mackerel.
it fell. The spike on it went through his boot into his foot. He ended up getting like I don't know if it was bone cancer or a
What?
bone infection.
Osteomyelitis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just I said from a fish.
Wow.
Yeah, and
But I
it
mean,
was.
that area was nasty,
But
man.
I fished maybe twice, and it was like the second time of bringing in reeling in my line, and my line was just brown. It was just I was like,
So much petroleum in
I
that water.
yeah, yeah,
So gross.
it was rough.
Yeah. So yeah, and so they took that out, and then I got promoted to staff sergeant a couple days later.
Now there's another thing because your MOS, especially in the guard. I mean, I knew active guys tell me how hard it was to promote in that field. The guard, it's even tougher because you only have so many windows of opportunity to promote.
So yeah, it's a really interesting story. Um, we got back. Shriner, God bless his soul. You know he died, right?
No,
We'll talk.
holy.
Yeah, he died like 6 months ago. Motorcycle crash out in Tenino, Mayfield area. Someone hit him, killed him.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll
Yeah,
talk. God,
I know, it's terrible.
yes,
It's crazy. But anyway, he's like, we get back, and I remember we were at North Fort, and he's like, okay, hey, we need to do your promotion packet. And I was like, oh, okay, when was your last PT test? And I'm like, you guys don't have all this information? I was like, this all was supposed to be sent in September. And I mean, it's February, March. It's March now. And I'm like, you guys haven't sent in anything? And he's like, nothing got sent in. And I'm like, okay, I'll take care of it myself. I submitted my own packet. I was the only one that submitted their packet from the 81st Brigade.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Crazy sauce. Where were all those packets at? An entire brigade doesn't submit, something's wrong there, right? And so I kind of felt I had some imposter syndrome because I'm like, did I just get promoted like just out of necessity because nobody else submitted their stuff? That's how it goes sometimes, you know? That's how it goes sometimes. But if I hadn't done my own, because I hand carried my stuff over to, I'm forgetting all the acronyms now.
Yeah, we're
Building 15.
Yeah, the headquarters.
The real long
The brigade.
building.
Yeah, brigade.
By 33.
I know where you're talking. Where the medical and the band and the.
Well, that's
Yeah.
building 34.
Is that 30?
Yeah, no, the one that's like here's building 33, and the one's
Sorry,
next to it.
we're old and
Yeah.
we're not getting any younger during this podcast. So
No, we don't remember acronyms.
We don't.
It's a real long building where you did your finance, ID card.
Yeah. Oh yes, yes. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I just can't remember the name of it. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
I would have until you said it. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just hand carried it over there, dropped it off, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So another lesson to soldiers out there: make sure you have your paperwork. Make sure you have your forms.
Be your own advocate.
Be your own advocate. Give that copy to whoever. Make a copy of it on your own thumb drive, personal thumb drive, because you don't want the government shutting down your system. But have something that you can send at the drop of a dime. Like as soon as somebody says, "Hey, we need this," that you can send it to them. But always have your own protected copies because you're gonna want those or need those if you're trying to promote, especially in the guard. Man, so you get your 6.
Yep.
But that's so.
Then I went to MedCom. That's where Medical Command, which is like stepping back in time. Like I hate speaking ill of units because I mean they all change obviously, but this was a unit. It's a homesteading unit. It really is a homestead unit because there are MOSs there where people can't go anywhere else. Like if you're a nurse, that's where you're stuck for your career.
Oh, wow.
You're not going anywhere.
Wow.
You're not going up to 81st Brigade because there is no nurse position up there. You're not going to the hospital because there is no hospital unit. You're going to medical command and doing physicals. That's what you're doing. You're doing physicals. And so I went there, and it's one of those things where it's like a haunted unit, if you catch my drift. It's a haunted unit in the fact of people come and go, but that
The process,
environment.
the yeah, the that
It's just
leader,
monotony
the
that they go through. But even more than that, it's like you get some really toxic people in there that hate their job and hate their position, or they love being able to be in charge of, and they stay there for 15 years as an AGR and just make that unit fall to pieces.
ooh,
So, like, aviation had the same problem. They still might, where it's just a recycle of people, right? And if you get the wrong people in there when it's recycling like that, it just carries this. And why can't I think of the word? Culture. It carries a culture with it that never leaves. It's one of the reasons why that thing that happened in Fort Hood with that Vanessa Guillen, that the girl that was killed, you know, there's a reason they fired everybody. They fired everyone all the way down because that culture, it was a haunted place. Like, even when the senior staff would leave, the new senior staff that would come into it were minions of the early ones. So it would just carry forward.
still running with that same
Yeah.
mentality.
And so it doesn't go anywhere. So you've got to get rid of everybody and start fresh. And that's what MedCom was. It was terrible, man. Awful.
Now, did you get your 7 at MedCom?
No, I got my 6 there. And that's when I got my tech job. Someone mentioned that there was a technician position open with occupational health. I met the criteria. So I applied and I got that job. And so I was dual hatting. I was working for 66th Aviation doing flight physicals. And I was good at it.
Because that's when I saw you again.
Mhm.
Because I remember you may have even done one of my hearing tests, if I remember
I'm
right.
sure I did.
It was because I had to have the flight physical for the deployment we thought we were going
Right,
on,
right.
and then ended up not
And just
going.
died in place.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was doing that, and it just got to be so toxic at MedCom. I just transferred over to aviation, and it made more sense because I was already doing all the flight physicals and everything. So then I just did it Monday through Friday, and then on drill weekend, and it worked out perfectly for a long time. So I was there for, I want to say, 6 years as an E6.
Now, how did you like aviation? Because I know for me, I was about after field artillery in our first deployment, I was ready to walk out the door. George Brown, Staff
I
Sergeant
remember.
Brown, um, was the one that said, "Hey, no, you're hell bent on getting out, but do a try one. Give aviation a shot." And I was like, 12 more drills. I could do that, to
Right.
try something different. And oh my gosh, I known about
Sure.
aviation, I'd probably never left. If it wasn't for being as old as I was coming, because I was 31 when I went to basic
Mhm.
training. If it wasn't for being as old and as broken as I was by the end of it, I would have done aviation forever. I mean,
I
it
think
was
my feeling on aviation was this: when I got over to the unit, there was a great group of people. It really was. There were a lot of people that I'd already known because I worked in that community already. So it was an easy transition for me to come over into aviation. And it was a nice break. You know, aviation is one of those things. I think there's two types of people in aviation, just two. Okay. There's the people that are going to stay there forever, right? They'll never leave because they're MOS. If you're a 15 series anything, you're not going anywhere.
no.
You're staying right there, right? And there's the other people that get promoted in, and then they just do that circle of first sergeantry, where they just go, oh, I'm in Bravo this week, I'm in Delta this week. They just go in the circles. And there's the other people that have to take it in metered doses because the one thing I really disliked about aviation was it's cliquish.
Mm.
It's very cliquish. And if you're down at the regular, just junior enlisted level, you don't see it so much. But you've got to watch out for the AGR and tech staff. And I belong to that tech staff, but I was always kind of an outsider on that. Personality conflicts, and by
Were
design.
you a jackwagon, or were you? Did you
No,
get
man.
along? Okay.
I didn't get along with everyone because I've always been outspoken. I've just been kind of outspoken. And so, and a smartass. I'm one of those too. But some of those people are very, like I said, they're very cliquish and they'll work over at Camp Murray together, or they work up at the buildings, in the building together over at the Arc. Um, you're never going to break that up. And you get people that go from cradle to grave with their career from the time they come out of AIT as a 15P or whatever they are until they retire as a sergeant major. They
See,
spend their entire career there.
I will say that was for better or worse, that was that advantage I think I had of starting off with 81st
I agree.
with field artillery, coming to aviation, getting to see the difference in it, doing recruiting, and then finishing out with 205th. I got to see a nice picture of the state guard as a whole, um, and it was interesting. There is something for everybody, but you may never know it because
Oh yeah.
you're so burnt out by the time you're done with one of the groups. You don't realize that, hey, all my skill sets really would have fit well
Well, yeah, and
with this.
there's two ways to look at a situation. You're either so far away from it, you're at the 50,000 foot level where you look at it and you're like, oh man, you know, you can't really get a good feel for what it is, or you're right here and that's all you know, right? And so it makes it really difficult for people when they come in and it's like, that's all they know is aviation and everything they learn is aviation. And then if for some reason they're like, oh, we need you to go to 161, they're soup. They're chewed up because they have no clue that there's another world out there. So
I
when I got my E7, it was with Charlie Med
Oh wow!
181.
So you jumped back to 81st.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Hardest job I ever had because, like aviation wise, I never got any training on how to lead anybody. Like my E6 years were just, I was just there. And so I came into E7 and I had to learn on the go, for better or for worse. I had to learn from people. I made mistakes. There's a lot of things that I wish I would have said, and twice as many as I wish I wouldn't have. And you learn those things.
That's
Hard lessons, man.
But you finish out as an E8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, holy smoke! How many E8 positions are in the state?
As a 68 whiskey,
Yep.
one
So holy
that
smoke!
I'm aware of. There might be two, but not too many. Not too many. And what happened with that is I made my E8. Once you make your E8, it's kind of MOS independent. Like you become an E8 because now you're staff, and you're either on the master sergeant side or you're on the first sergeant side, one of the two. And I came back to aviation. And let me tell you, worst experience ever.
Oh wow!
Terrible. Terrible. You have no home. You come in as a 68 whiskey E8, right? So you're 68 whiskey 50. And your job is medical evacuation NCO or medical ops NCO. That's what it was. There's no medical ops at 66 TAC. There's nothing, right? So you're just out in the wind and you hold a rank high enough to where nobody messes with you. So you just kind of, you just float, like on Forrest Gump, where it's like the feathers kind of flying around, You're just like a bag in the wind, man. Like nothing. Well, then that position imploded because TAC became TAP.
96. theater air command or theater
became
aviation
something
command.
else, and that position got eliminated. So they were like, Scott Borkin called me because he was working over at I don't remember. He was working over at promotions, I think, and he's like, "Hey, look, just so happens there's a position opening over at JFHQ for state SARC, so the sexual assault response coordinators, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll take that because otherwise, like, where am I going to end up? Maybe I'll even have to give back my 8 and go back to 7." This is like, yeah, I'll finish out my career, and it was very rewarding, you know.
It was I don't know if you knew. Did you know Master Sergeant Melinda Heikkinen?
Yeah, I know hiking.
Yeah, she was who. So I used to be Charlie 1112,
Mm-hmm.
but she's the one that got me into the. I was a victim advocate
Yeah.
for the SHARP program. She had got me into that, and I will tell you, it was rewarding and very challenging on deployment. The second
Oh, I'll
deployment was
bet.
a very challenging position to be in,
That is very
but it
sharp,
was.
heavy area.
I remember when you and Pernhagen were involved in that. I was excited to know that there were other people that were gonna, you know, be filling those shoes and because
It's yeah.
it's a tough it's a very tough for soldiers who have something happen as a civilian, or you have something happen from a soldier while you're
Mm-hmm.
on a M-Day mission, or you're an M-Day soldier who's gotten activated and something happens in theater and having to deal with all three
Oh yeah.
agent
No, it's
because
crazy.
you were left in the wind.
Yeah, it is crazy how much it happens too. The other thing
And
is,
those and let me just tell the sharp program is it's a program to educate soldiers on what to do, how to handle situations where sexual assault or sexual harassment happen at the workplace,
right.
in a combat zone, on deployments, or in a training environment. Uh, the victim advocate will, which I was, is you're somebody who is going to help that soldier go through the legal process or take them to their
Walk
appointments,
them through the process.
walk them
Yeah, yeah.
through, make sure that they're not harassed by other elements, either by the perpetrator or by the command that it happened in, which unfortunately these things can and do
They do
happen.
happen.
It's why they have a sharp program.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really interesting, and I don't know if you went through it, but um, you realize how far across the line you've lived for such a long time in the military. And this has been the number one thing that I've learned from so many people that have gone through victim advocacy or sharp school is they're like, I had no idea I was even doing that, right? Like, just these little sly comments, coarse jesting, stuff kind of like that. You don't even realize you're doing it.
coming from okay, let's go
The little
back to
microcosm you live in is kind of
when
wild.
when we came through, when combat arms was only males. Just think
Yeah.
about the joking, the things that we did.
Even the cadences.
You get into the point where, all right, we start having the incorporation of
Mm-hmm.
females into our units, and then we get past the don't ask don't tell stage, and we have that uh, the LGBT community in our ranks. So you and I
Tons of change,
you and I
man.
go through this arc of change in the military that it takes some adjusting.
Oh man.
But there were folks who did not adjust, and there
No,
were
and I used to
and
tell people that when I would train them, is I would train a group and I would split them up. I would say I want E5 and below over here. I want E6 and up over here. And I would go to one side and Stephanie Porch, Tony Only.
okay,
Remember her?
I believe so.
Okay,
It was
yeah. So, and now her name's Fritz,
yep.
right? So, but Steph and I are pretty close, and that's where we learned about each other. Like I barely knew her. I knew her from aviation, but we went to sharp school together down in Mississippi.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I can't even remember the camp down there.
I, yeah,
I
Mississippi.
forgot.
Yep.
It's been a long time. It's a little National Guard base. But anyway, She would go and talk to the E5s and below, and I would go talk to the E6s and up. And the first thing I would tell them is, the reason I split is because you guys are the problem. And he'd go, people would be like, what do you mean? And I said, well, when a program's not working for such a long time, like, it really is one of those things where you've just got to cut your losses and tell the other group, okay, from here on out, whatever happens now is up to you. Like, you can change it because this other group lived in a timeline where this was acceptable behavior. And you're asking them to completely change everything that they've known. They'll make changes, but there's still a lot of residual that gets left over no matter how hard you try. There's going to be some residual in there. And it's hard for a human to completely rewrite their way of thinking that fast. It's hard for them to do it. And the amount of change that we've had over the last 10 years is exponential. I mean, it's a huge amount of change. So you got to talk to the junior people and be like, listen, it's up to you now. If it stays this way, it's because it didn't work with you guys either. But you guys over here, it's just more damage control over on these guys' side. Like, you got to keep your mouth shut. Like, I understand because I grew up in that timeline, but you've got to learn to keep your mouth shut. This is a different group of people now, right? It was a really interesting dynamic to go through. Really interesting.
I was glad to have served when I did, because like I said, I felt like I got to live through two different eras.
Oh, dude, it's wild.
And it's hey, more luck to the young ones as they're going through.
Yeah, just give them what they need. Give them what they need to make it. And but you mentioned, the nature of warfare is changing too. Like, we came up in the Fulda Gap timeline, kind of thing, like the end of the Russians, and the whole works like that. And it's like massive Russian hordes of tanks, coming across the Fulda Gap,
How do you feel like that we're I mean, it feels like we're watching the Cold War really come back, with in spades, and it was one of those things that even before the last administration, I really felt like we would be into it with the Soviet, or sorry, not the Soviets, the Russians.
You just aged yourself.
Yeah. But seeing that all again and watching what these young ones are going to have to be ready for.
Well, so they've got their own fight. When I give safety briefings now, and I teach supervisor safety training for the Air Force, something I tell them is, I'm like, okay, here's your job as a non-commissioned officer. Okay. But you've got to look at this now as, we're not fighting farmers anymore. Like, we are going to be fighting near peer adversaries. And these wars aren't going to get any easier because technology is improving. Even for the little guy, technology is improving. Like, to where they can create massive chaos. Like, a kid with a keyboard is good enough can create a lot of damage. And that just wasn't a thing back when we were coming up. Like, you needed strategic and tactical advantage, but you couldn't hack someone's power grid. You couldn't fly a little, $500 drone into a power supply and blow it up. Like, you couldn't do that back in the day. But you can do that now. And so it's adapt or die, but we have to get out of that old mindset of, oh, everything's fine. We'll go on our little deployments and stuff, because the next one might be a big one, where it's all hands on deck. Like, we might get called back up, kind of thing. Like, we're at the bottom of the barrel, boys.
I'm gonna get a shaving profile. I'm just telling you right now. The world needs this sweet beer.
I'll put you in a wheelbarrow. We'll charge right at the front line. We'll do what we have to. But yeah, it's definitely different, and in all categories. In all categories, it's just a completely different group of people now.
Did you stay connected with friends when you came home with your fellow soldiers? And what about now that you're retired?
I did stay friends with some. I think the hardest lesson, there's two lessons I learned. First lesson, know when to retire. Okay, know when to clear the shelf. Okay, your expiration date's up. Something the Guard, especially the Guard, will tell you is, you're never going to make it without them. It's such a dysfunctional relationship. It's like, you'll never find anyone as beautiful as me. Like you can't make $1 without the guard, and you can. You very easily. I got out. I worked right up until I started my new job, which was like December 21st, and I retired on the 1st. So it was very close.
Wow.
Okay. Went over to the Air Force, went from a GS9 to a GS11. Yeah, it was a good step up for me.
Wow.
Okay, working for the Air Force and everything like that. So it was really good. So there's that part where you think that you're never going to do anything greater. Okay, which kind of leads into my next point. You have to know what to expect from the military, because you and I could talk and say, I always have your back, and I know you mean it, right? But there's so many people that you talk to that are like, dog, I got you. You ever need anything, I'm there for you. And the second you leave, it's like you never existed, just severed. And there's maybe 4 or 5 guys that you still talk to. You knew hundreds of people. You had all these connections. You knew that, like, while you were part of the super cool club, you could get all these things done. The second you leave, all of those empty promises start showing their receipts. Like, nope, can't help you this weekend, man. And they just fade away. And that makes sense. That makes sense, because it's like the nature of the business is one of revolving doors. There's always people coming and going. Always people coming and going, which is a sad fact, but it's how that business works. Like, they've got to constantly, because otherwise you do get units where people stay. There's no open positions ever. And it's the same people revolving in there. Or you have a first sergeant that's been there for 7 years as first sergeant. That's not going to work.
That's the one challenge with the guard, I think, over active duty is, if you have an excellent leader, 7 years is fantastic, because it gives you a chance to build a culture of leadership. if you have that, great command climate, but it also can stagnate and having worked at it from the recruiting side. Also, I can see those challenges of, man, I just sent this kid into a unit that I know is going to tear him apart. That's kind of tough. Hopefully things have been getting better, what we've been out. That was that other thing, like you said, having the shelf life. I knew I needed to leave, because not only was I freeing up positions for younger ones to promote into, but I got to do the things in the guard that
I did so much. I did so much more than I ever started. Brian, I was blowing up cars in Boise, Idaho, and blowing up mailboxes, like making little pipe bombs and stuff like that. And the Army was my only choice coming in. I had a 1.8 grade point average. My mom sent me my report cards. I'm just like, oh my God, like, holy cow. Like, just reading my report cards, I'm like, I would have been prisoner dead, like, with the people I was hanging out with. I still do talk to one of my friends, Doug Ackley. I still talk to him. Like, we were always friends. And actually, Doug was the one that kind of kept me out of trouble most times. It was these other 2 I hung out with that always got me in trouble. Always in trouble. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's all I had. And all I really expected was just a reprieve from going to prison, because the state looks down on bombs.
Just a little bit.
Blowing up mailboxes and stuff, right? And I was in some serious trouble. And it was just like the cadence, go to the Army or go to jail kind of thing. And I joined the Army, and I never looked back, man. I never really looked back.
You get young ones.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to tell them when they say, "Hey, Dad, I'm thinking about signing up"?
Day late, dollar short on that one, my friend. Like, my son's 15. Okay, 6'1", size 14 shoe, plays lacrosse, wants to be a lot like his dad. He wants to be a medic and stuff. I'm like, it's a good thing you can't sign up at 14, 15 years old, right? So I'm like, but he talks a lot about that, and I'm going to support his decision because the army was good to me. But I'm doing for him what no one did for me, and that was be an officer,
Yeah.
go in intel, something that you when you get out, you can get really really good job on the outside. Do something like that, like better yourself so much that you are a commodity when you come out. Because an E4 truck driver, you're not a hot commodity. You've got a little experience, but E4 medic, you're a
I
glorified CNA. I mean,
I'd say unless you're using, and this is one of those things where I heard they were going to do it. I hope they're doing it. That when you come out of like 88 Mike School,
mhm.
you have your CDL.
And if they could do that, that'd
That's
be
the thing,
amazing.
because
But
it's the licensing piece of like
yeah, it's
you
like 10 grand to get that.
you've got them. Get that licensing, get that training, get your 4 to 6 years out of the soldier, But when they step into that civilian life, it's like, hey, I don't have to do a whole lot. I can already be making 80 to
Right?
$100,000 a year driving truck. I mean, my
That'd be
friends,
great,
my
dude.
friends who drive fuel trucks or long haul, I'm astounded sometimes about how much they make.
Oh yeah, dude.
On
Well, nobody
now,
wants to do that job,
yeah,
you know?
and it's like you were doing it for a lot less for the
Oh
army,
yeah.
and now you're making bank on the
Yeah.
on the civilian side doing it.
Well, if they could do that, because 68 Whiskey is the same way, it's like if you could come out and be not only national registry certified, but if they could like take the medic and turn it into LPN,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Something like that, or I don't know. But you come out as a glorified CNA, a certified nurse's aide. When you're going to go make 12, 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour, you'll be able to survive. But it's like you get to touch this much of what you were actually trained to do because you can do all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's one of those things. I hope they did something with the truck driver because that'd be cool, man. Like,
what do you want your kids, your wife, and maybe someday your grandkids? What do you want them to know about your time in service? What's a story that you want them to know?
so many I don't want them to know. um, I guess like for my family, they were always there for me. My wife was always a rock, and she always understood. She might not have liked it, but she always understood the service, the needs of the service. I didn't sign up for patriotism. I signed up to get out of a dead end situation. But the thing that I would say is you don't realize what you sacrifice until after the fact of what you sacrificed, both good and bad. And I would say like, gosh, I don't know what I'd want to say to them specifically, but I would never say don't join the military. I'd say join for the right reasons if you're going to join. And if you're going to join, then
Because whether you like it or not, working in recruiting, you are going to be one of the reasons now that
yeah.
because family service is
Oh, it's 100%. Yeah, it's
it's the
huge.
largest portion
Yeah.
of soldiers that join was because either dad or grandpa or Uncle Billy had signed up and served.
Yeah, and
Um,
and there's no better place to make lifelong horribly dysfunctional friends. It's like the best place in the world to find the craziest
y'all
people
are the best,
that would lay
dude.
down in traffic for you, but you would never invite them over for dinner. It's it's one of those things like I don't want my family to meet you. Um, but no, but sign up for the right reasons for whatever they are, and if you are going to do it, make it worth your while because a recruiter will fill that position. If you're unsure, they'll talk you into what is needed done. This, right? It has to happen. Those quotas have to get filled. And I would say, like, the old adage of stay in school and study your butt off.
Mm,
Okay. The better you do on that ASVAB, the better job you get.
yeah,
You have to look
yeah.
at your future because jumping out of planes and eating snakes sounds cool until you're doing it. Okay. And there's nothing that sucks worse than sitting in a cold hangar that has no heat and you're manifesting for 6 hours just sitting there on the cold pavement, just waiting. And then find out that there's a strange light on your aircraft that pops up in the cockpit and now you can't fly anywhere. And then you wasted a whole day just sitting out there. Like, get you a job that is going to benefit you for the future. You're paid for your life energy. So get the right job. That would be it. Yeah.
No. You didn't really get to enjoy retired life because 3 weeks is not a big break.
I'm too young for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was only 40.
I celebrated 2 whole months.
Yeah.
And I was like, couldn't sit on the couch anymore.
Nah, man.
It was.
I mean, I got to make money and I'm too young to draw any retirement anyway. Right. So I just kept my tech job. I got little ones, like we started late in life. You got to put them through school and, got a mortgage and all that other stuff. But coming out of the Army, going over to the Air Force is like moving to Panama. Like, it's a completely different culture. You're just like, wow, I'm in Ghana. Like, I don't know any of the language. I don't know how anything works here. Everybody's got this different idea, theocracy of how they want to do life and run the military, and it's counterintuitive to everything you've learned for the last 27 years.
You understand why the Air Force is the Army's little sister.
There is a lot of pillow carrying. Your reports are, the palm leaves and the grapes, for the pilots and stuff. Completely different language.
I'm just telling you from the fueler side, we loved every time we used to get our fuel tested on the McCord side. So when we would go over there once a month to do our
to LRS,
and we loved it. They were great.
Nice.
They were a great group. It was like
okay, yeah.
It was the stuff you. It's like as great as I thought Army aviation was. The actual Air Force was like, holy.
Oh no, man!
I wish my ASVAB had been so much better.
It is okay. So here's the deal. They really are smarter over there, but that's not hyperbole. That's real. Because their jobs require higher ASVAB scores, so you do get more intelligent people.
Yeah.
Now, intelligence is not necessarily wisdom. Okay, so there's a lot of nerds over there. There's a lot of nerds on the Air Force side. A lot of Magic the Gathering going on over there, right? Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. That being said, they have a different thought process on how they treat people. It took me a couple of years to really dig into this. They don't do formations. Those don't exist. Yeah, they don't do. And the only time that there's ever a formation is if like someone's getting promoted or change of command, something like that. But there's no morning formation. This is literally the chow hall's at a ranch dressing war as hell kind of operation, right? Because they treat everybody like adults there for the most part. They don't baby anybody. And their numbers are small enough to where you can get accountability just from being at work. You can see who's supposed to be there versus, okay, here's Charlie Company. Second platoon is 64 people deep, just that platoon, right? Their little squadrons, they might have 7 people in the unit kind of thing, like real small. Wow. Like some of the flight squadrons, they'll have, 20, 30 people. Like it's not very many people. It's just flight crews. They won't have very many. If you have like AMXS, which is the aviation maintenance section, so they're pretty big. They've got 600.
Oh, wow.
You got a lot of people. MXS, like between the two of them, they got hundreds of people because like that is what that base is you're keeping aircraft flying. So they're huge, right? But they're broken up into individual little sections that monitor themselves. So I've got my thought processes on it. I'm like, the discipline here is not the same as it was across the street. It's much different. But I really enjoy working over there now. Like sometimes I wonder, I'm like,
should I have?
Yeah. I was never smart enough to be a pilot. Just never good enough at math for that, or at least that's what I told myself.
I had to. I always joke about my ASVAB, but I had too many kids. Could not get a waiver for the Air Force. So that was kind of my one of my challenges. Um, and also the Army used to take felons, so yeah, that was a big.
I'll tell you a funny recruiting story. So I was doing a storefront day and working at Lakewood. This lady walks in, and it's my job to greet the people coming in. Hey, how are you? She's like, good, great. How are you? I'm like, good. What can I do for you? I'm looking at signing up for the Army National Guard. Fantastic. You came to the right place. Come sit down. Let me ask the big three questions. Okay. Do you have any chemical abuse issues? Do you have any drug problems? Anything like that? Nope. Totally clean. Cool. You could pass your analysis? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay. What about medical issues? Do you have any major medical issues that we need to know about before we even start paperwork? No, no medical issues. Nothing like that. Okay. Let's talk about record. Do you have any record? Well, you have to understand that. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And she's like, it was either him or me. And I'm like, go on. I want to hear the story. I chose life over my ex-husband. And I'm like, did you kill your ex-husband? She's like, well, he used to beat me. And so I shot him. And I went to jail for 13 months for manslaughter. And I'm like, uh-huh. Continue. Like, right? And she's like, she told me this whole long story. And I'm like, okay. And you got the little book that you look at. So I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately, manslaughter is a felony. So at this time, we're not taking any of that. It's not waiverable. She starts crying. And I'm like, well, at the time, across the street, Marine Corps recruiting was across the street. And one of the things they told me was, never be the final word. So I'm like, but across the street over here, Marine Corps over there, they might. She, sure enough, went down, walked, hit the crosswalk, went across the street, man.
Wow.
But anytime someone starts with, well, first you have to understand, I'm like, oh boy. See, the problem was, it's like, oh no.
I know when I get back those reports with, you know, uh, 6 to 10 speeding tickets that still aren't paid for, or you know, 1 to 6 counts of felony trespass. It's just like, I'm so sorry. We cannot help you at this time.
I'd love to help change your life, but at this time,
you got to fix some things first.
At this time,
yes.
Yeah, it's the worst because she just crocodile tears, boom, those eyes just start doing that water. I was like, but across the street.
Now, who are you listening to or reading or keeping up on?
Oh, there's so many to choose from now with the world in chaos that it is. There's a lot of podcasts out there. I really avoid most of the politics. I really do, because it's kind of hard to filter out the wheat from the chaff on that, because you'll see something on there and it's like, she said this and ruined her career, clickbait kind of stuff, and like they're all like that. And it's like, okay, well, who do I listen to? So if it's about ancient aliens or anything like that, it's Joe Rogan. I kind of like some of the stuff that goes on Joe Rogan, but the second that the politics part hits, I'm out, because I'm like, I've got to be able to make my own decisions without someone implanting their ideas on me. But for the most part, Brian, I don't listen to too much in the way of podcasts because it's just become so partisan. It's hard to find something.
I had I still have a string of ones that I listen to from time to time, but I really was spending a lot of time between about 5 or 6 different podcasts to make sure that I was getting both sides of the story. And I got to a point where I remember back in January, I did a kind of a fast from
You have to.
social media, and it carried on into Lent,
And
and
just kept going.
just kept going. And I find now that maybe about once a week I'll log on to something, or click something, but I don't I don't get as worked up or amped up or
You can't,
concerned about
man.
things that are not only out of my sphere, but also it's amazing the peace I lose when I do that.
I know. I agree with that.
It's I watched the one thing I will say during the whole COVID process was watching so many of our friends on Facebook. Us older ones still use Facebook.
Devolve into partisan hacks.
Yes,
Oh my God, man.
it was a fight for, and as a, not only my years as in the ministry and a chaplain, but it just, I felt being in the military, I really had a neutral,
Well, you want to
because
believe you do,
you hope. I mean, I think people were very clear about what I believed and didn't believe or didn't
Right, right.
tolerate, but at the same time, I don't. My hope was I never beat anybody over the head
No,
with
you've
that.
always been one to call it too, man. Like, seriously, you've always been home base. I do remember that, especially at aviation, because like I would come in with some crap. I'd say something to you, and you'd be like, "Have you thought about this?" And I'd be like, "No, I haven't thought about that." And just like, well, before you jump to conclusions, maybe look into this. We've had plenty of those conversations. You know, now if you could just talk to Jeff Kelly. So, but,
we'll get Jeff on here one day. We'll get him to do
but
this.
no, man, like some people just get completely locked in. I think it's sad. I think it's sad because if there's anything I've learned over the last couple of years, is there's always two sides to a story. And regardless of how you were raised or believe or like who's in charge or don't like who's in charge, to become locked in and completely one sided, that truly paves the way for absolute destruction for anybody.
And I
Like you
think
can't just be locked in.
being, and the fact that regardless how much we, as soldiers, as you fought or got along with on a deployment, and like, hey, once this is over, I don't ever have to see you again. It's a whole different thing when suddenly that person who had your back for the last year
Mm-hmm.
in theater, and suddenly you no longer, you would have lived or died for this individual, and to come home and have something be so divisive,
Saying the
the
worst
the
things.
worst things, that was the hard thing for, I'm all about, uh how can I put it, we fought and died for people's rights to believe
Sure.
what they want
Absolutely.
to. um what I didn't uh, what I didn't give up, 20 years of my life for, though, was to be your enemy because you don't like how I
I'll never
view
get it, man.
I view this. So
I'll
it's,
never get it.
hopefully this will always be, my hope is that this will always be more of a place for soldiers to connect, share their
Sure,
story,
man.
and hopefully get some healing, because there was a lot of our guys who, when we came home, they were lost.
Oh
When
yeah.
we came back,
Still.
it's still,
Some of them
some
still.
some are still lost from, you come back from those deployments, and I was sure that the home isn't there anymore. You come back and
Yeah.
home is gone.
So I'm gonna share a little theory. By the way, I've got a friend who still talks about the deployment every time we're together. Still talks about it as if it was like yesterday. Hey, you remember this? You remember that? Yeah, I remember that. Oh, it's like that one time that, and I was like, dude, you've had 4 kids, 2 different jobs, you've got a career. Let's talk about those things. Let's talk about relevant things now. But it's like, I don't know if he peaked, if that was his peak or what. I don't know. But my thought process on this, I call deployments time machines. Because when we go, or whoever goes, they go and they're basically put in a status of suspended animation when it comes to normal life back here. They're not exposed to it. They're lucky if they're doing 1 or 2 jobs and they're completely focused on that. Now, this is where things fall apart. Is mom or husband, whoever's back here, has to make all this work. And to do that, you're not there. So to do that, they've got to adapt or die, like straight up. They've got to adapt or die. And so they've got to take all this time and effort, and they ultimately end up changing. They change too. Okay. Then you come back thinking you're going to fill the same role that when you came back. And because there's no 2-week boat ride from North Africa back to the States, you're in Iraq one day, back here the next, and you're just supposed to expect to assimilate back into that. That is a recipe for disaster. Absolute recipe for disaster. And so I believe that when you come back, you should have like not even local. You should be like down in Texas somewhere. Just debriefing, just unloading, and kind of getting your feet back under you. You're not getting shot at. You're not, I mean, it's hot in Texas, but it's not Kuwait hot. It's not 127 degrees in most places. You can get a fresh burger, a shower every day. No one messing with you, just real light duty. And you're just relaxing, and then you come home so that you've got a chance to breathe, because you can't disconnect from that op tempo and that level of here and come back down to here, because you're going to crash. And so many of our friends have, and our story's not unique.
No, that's the thing. I'm excited for the ones that I've watched that, built a life after we come home. Some of them didn't have anything going for them when we left, and by the time we came home, they're doing businesses, they're married, they're having kids. There were those of us that came back and home wasn't there anymore,
right?
And we had to rebuild. I wouldn't have all of this if I hadn't met the wife that I have now.
100%.
Who
who knows where I'd be, man.
It just,
who knows where I'd be.
I get to honestly say when people ask, well, how much do you make or what do you do? I don't know. I haven't seen a paycheck in 18 years.
I know how much I make, but I don't control it.
Yeah. It's like I
don't control it.
have not seen a pay stub in 18 years.
Right.
Because
and thank God.
Yeah.
Because man, you don't want me managing that.
Yeah.
I'm not great. You don't want me managing that. Right. Be a whole bunch of 3D printers around the house, like a bunch of fishing equipment.
Life would be a lot different. I'd probably be living in one of those big long Connexes.
I'd be living right in that box.
Yeah,
right there. Yeah. But yeah.
No. Is there anything we missed? You feel like?
I mean, there's a whole lifetime of stuff, but no, I think we covered things pretty good.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. And I wish you well on the new adventure. I can't even call it new because you've been with them, what, 5 years?
Yeah, now? Roughly.
Man.
Yeah. Well, 4.5. Yeah. 5 years in December.
And you're also doing drones? Are you doing a side business?
No, it's a side business.
Side business?
Yeah.
Right on.
Thank you for bringing that up. My wife bought me a drone for my birthday like 4 years ago. Wow. And flying it around because I was flying fixed wing stuff, big like Corsairs and stuff. I'm terrible at it. Crash them every time, man. I'm terrible at it. Just
that's an expensive hobby.
Too much. There's too much pucker factor involved. Do that or and I don't like that. So she got me a drone. I was flying it around, and I'm like, okay, this is a flying camera. Is all this is. And I saw the social utility of it. I saw the capabilities of it. So I hung out for a bit, and then I found a guy who, on OfferUp, who was selling a professional model, Mavic 2 Pro, right? $700. I was like, oh man, it's a lot of money. I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. I'm gonna go for it, right? Bought it, and
Mama didn't break your fingers?
No. She was like, she supports my stuff as long as it's not, every month I'm ordering $600 worth of stuff. That's a no-go. But She's like, okay. And I'm like, look, I'm going to make my money back on this, right? I have this plan. Well, so I got to doing the reading, and it's like, oh, you need an FAA pilot's license to actually make money on the outside. You can't just go buy a drone. You could, but you can't just go buy a drone and then start your own business. You've got to have an FAA pilot's license called Part 107.
Wow.
And so it's like half of a pilot's license. Like you're not actually flying the aircraft, but you're flying the aircraft. But you've got to know everything about flight spaces, like how, what's the height areas you can fly in, where, different classes, class A through E, places you can fly, planning your flight routes, the whole works, man, getting waivers, all of that.
You have
do
to
all
you
of
have to
that.
put in a flight plan with it when you
Depends. It really depends. Like you get clearance, it's called Lance, okay, and it stands for, I don't know, it's an acronym, another one of those acronyms, just low altitude airspace navigation clearance, something like that, right? And you put in for that, and you say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. There's a lot of little companies that'll hire you as a subcontractor, so you don't get paid great, but you make $70 an hour doing it, which isn't terrible.
No, not at
Okay,
all.
but when someone hires me outright, like to do their house, it's like $250 an hour. Okay, but you get like, we make, well, I say me, I'll make a video for them, like a 2-minute video with music matched up and all the different views, and it's like, and at this house we've got this beautiful 4-bedroom rambler. I don't voice it over, but like I send it to them, and it's got their logo on it and everything like that. Yeah, and it just grew from there. Yeah, it's actually pretty fun,
That's
and I just do it on the weekends, man.
right on.
Yeah, I just do
That's
it. It's for
I
fun.
think a lot of soldiers miss opportunities to do side businesses
Oh,
where
do
it's
them.
like when you have that solid income
Mm-hmm.
and you get the drive to do it. Now there's always that lie of work-life balance,
Oh yeah.
going on. If you got real little ones, I'm gonna tell you no. Do the things that you can for, because especially that
Oh
first
yeah.
5 years is like really important. But when the opportunity arises, there's so many things you can be doing to set yourself up better
Well, and
come
it's,
retirement.
yeah, drones are hard. It's hard to break into. It's really hard to break into. You can do the low level stuff, where they're like, oh, I need a, five, 5 direction of this house called cardinal direction. It's like 8 different points, like on a compass, from 200 feet or 400 feet or whatever. Anybody can do that. It's not hard. Okay. Oh, and you're like, okay, that's cool. And then you take a bunch of other training that comes along with it, because you've got to get your FAA certification. So you got a ton of training on that you got to do, and then go take a test at the airport and all this stuff, right? So then you take additional training, and then you start doing mapping missions where you're mapping. It's called orthogramic, and so you're doing a full. I don't know. It takes like 12 or 1,500 pictures at a specific angle. So it's like you do this whole mapping grid, and it creates a 3D image.
Well,
And it's usually like big companies pay like $800-900 for that, because you've got to have the software to put it all together. And so they'll hire us or hire me to go out and do that. And they'll pay you like 150, $200, and you just plan the route and hit a button, and the aircraft flies itself, taking all the pictures.
does the GI Bill pay for any of this training?
I'll bet you it does. I did everything on my own. I found the drone flight academy online, and just did one of those online ones.
Right.
And they basically just walk you through the whole process, and here's what the answers are going to be to questions, kind of thing. So it's almost like you're taking like a cliff notes kind of thing, and you take your test. And it's not that hard, but you've got to know the stuff. That's where being in aviation helped out. Is I'd learned a lot of that information from there. Just paying attention, talking to pilots and stuff like that. So that was handy. That was handy to have. But yeah, and then once you get involved in it, it's cool. But you're doing that low level stuff to get into the bigger stuff where it really starts paying. Like you need some capital to buy some of these bigger ones. And those drones, man, they're 30, 40 grand.
Do you recommend folks taking? The Army has a pretty big drone program now.
Yeah, so it's called UAS, BUAS, something like that. Yeah, take it. Absolutely. It's the future. It's going to replace everything. Like it's going to replace Amazon eventually. Like for small packages, it will, because they can already do it in more remote areas. The class 3 kind of aircraft that'll launch right off the top of the Amazon
I didn't
platforms.
even think about that. The whole business model of imagine instead of spending 2 hours on a logging road to get up to some cabin,
Yeah.
that 30 minutes you can just fly it
Well,
in,
what they'll
drop
do
it off.
is they'll give you a platform, right? So it's bigger than that, but it's like right the size of your table, right? And it's a platform that's on there, and it's got a ground location identifier on it, and the aircraft will they'll fly to, or they'll drive to as close as they can get without going off road, and then they launch the aircraft, and it goes up to a certain altitude, flies right to your place, comes right down on that ground control station, lands. You go out, disconnect it, hit something on your phone that says retrieved.
Wow.
Yeah, Amazon
We're,
pioneered that.
we're not Star Trek yet, but we're getting
Getting
there.
there, Jetsons, man. We're getting there. So yeah,
Well, brother, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you for
man.
coming.
It's been great.
It's we'll try not to make it what 6 years or 5 years.
I agree.
5 years,
I
yeah.
agree with
That's
that.
it.
Time slips, man.
Facebook is fun, but this is
This is
funner.
better.
Yep.
Yeah, the days go by slow, but the years go by fast. You know,
No
just
doubt.
like in a heartbeat. So awesome. Great, man.
Now you get to watch my hip in action with this.
Yeah, my knees right now. I'm like, creak, creak. A team in.